Shut up and sit down.
Hello and welcome to this week's Tiki session. As always, Stuart Cullen from Rawee Board Company, and behind the bar, Ash.
Really happy to have our guest along tonight. So Camilla along is a local entrepreneur and public speaking coach. So I'm delighted to have you along, and I've made your favourite cocktail tonight, which is a Cosmopolitan. We make it with a mix of Stolly with Cointreau, some fresh lime juice and a little bit of cranberry juice. So number one, welcome along, and number two, I hope you like your drink.
Thank you so much, Ash. I have been looking at this beautiful drink and I have been dying to take a sip. So I actually think I have to start off the session with a little beautiful sip of this.
We'll not zoom in too much.
No, that's it.
But hopefully
and Camilla had to wait a wee minute to get her drink because this is the second take. We did forget to press record in the first take, so we only got a couple of minutes in before we realised, so it's all good. Camilla, welcome to the Tiki Sessions. I've known you for years, haven't seen you in a while, so it's great to have you here, great to get a catch up with you. For those people that are watching that mightn't know you, and there won't be that many out there, can you tell us who you are and where you're originally from?
Well, Stuart, I tell everybody now I am from Portrush. I'm from the North Coast, and then the minute this accent comes out, people always query that one. But I do feel like the North Coast have been so welcoming to me and my family. We have lived here now full time for 9 years. I originally come from County Meath, which is just outside Dublin. But it's been a circuitous route, if you could describe it as that, to the North Coast for my husband Jerry and I, because we moved here from London, and Jerry and I met originally in Tokyo in Japan. So however we've ended up on the North Coast, and there is a story behind that too. It's just been a beautiful place for us to settle. I mean, the fabulous beach just out the window. Where else would you want to be in? Now, finally, the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle was the best cocktails to be got anywhere.
And do you know what? They and I'm not just saying that because of the Tiki Sessions and because of working with Ash. I am not a big cocktail drinker, but any drink Ash has made me has converted me to that drink. And I've had, like, I love your mojitos, and I've gone to other places and had their mojitos, and I'm like, nah, only like Ash's mojitos, you know.
Well, it's funny, like, because my going back, and we'll touch on this a little bit later on, I'm sure, but like for me, cocktails were something I stayed away from my whole life. I was a good bartender in the Edgewater Hotel. I knew I could pull a good pint of Guinness, and up in Belfast I ended up working in a cocktail bar, and I stayed away from the people who were making cocktails or who wanted cocktails. I just went to the rugby players, and then all of a sudden I had to go because there was a really good manager at the time, and he said, right, you need to learn these, you need to learn and sort of immerse yourself in it. And I always had this sort of imposter syndrome, and then it's only this year that I've actually started to believe in sort of the cocktails that I'm making and the ideas that I've got, and it's reaped rewards, and partly to do with the likes of the stuff that you and Sarah do, talking about public public confidence and having confidence in yourself. And I met you a while ago actually, and I really like the way that you guys operate. There's genuine authenticity between you and Sarah, and like, how did you meet Sarah then if you weren't originally from here? Or
well, you're just talking there about my lovely business partner, Sarah Travis, who is a local girl, born and bred here on the North Coast. She and I met a number of years ago. I had a role at Ulster University at the time, and my job was to invest in economic development in the local area. And Sarah at the time was well known in Northern Ireland as a TV journalist. She's been a news journalist all of her life. And she had decided that it was time to take a move out of that. So she met up with me to talk about the idea of maybe setting up a training business or a media training company. And she and I chatted, and you know what? That didn't really particularly work out at that time. But there was something in that conversation. There was something about Sarah. She's so magnetic. And we came back to it, and we revisited the idea. And anyway, after many coffees, and actually not so much wine at that stage, Bespoke Communications was born, and the wine started after that.
See, this is a great thing. So I've known Sarah probably longer than I've known most people that I know. We grew up together. Both her dads were best mates. And I obviously met you, I think I actually met you first of all through the university for something, and then with Sarah. And the really interesting thing is you both have totally different skill sets. You both have totally similar skill sets, and you both gel perfectly well together. Like, I couldn't think genuinely of a better business duo than the two of you. You both just work, you are good friends, similar personalities, but don't clash with each other. And Bespoke has just exploded and done really, really well. So what exactly, and now I know the answer to this because I've worked with you before, but tell us what Bespoke Communications is, or what you wanted it to be when it first started.
Well, everything evolves, doesn't it? Bespoke Communications, we're all about, I suppose, empowering people in teams to be the best that they can be and communicate as effectively as they possibly can. A lot of that comes down to presentation skills, public speaking, speaking on camera, media training. But there's a lot more to it than that. And it's things like working with teams to help them to build their executive presence. So if you have leaders coming through your company, technically brilliant at what they do, sometimes you've alluded to it yourself there, Ash, about the whole idea of, well, that confidence. And it's about helping people to see what they actually have inside themselves. I think that's really what it comes down to, because we all have it.
Yeah.
It's just having the courage to step up and be bold and own it. And that's really our job, is to help people to bring out the very best of themselves whenever they find themselves in front of other people.
And I think that it's great whenever you've got a really, for me, it's cohesiveness in a team, and it's trying to work out where their skill sets are and how they can help within a team. And for me, it's only as good as the owner or the manager. If they're willing to invest in bringing you and Sarah in to try and help the team, it's the guys out there sometimes where, you know, the old saying is success has many owners, where, you know, people are trying to keep the good stuff for themselves, and sort of it's difficult to get a lot of maybe the older people who are doing a good job but are sort of reluctant to relinquish any roles or responsibilities. And I think unlocking that and empowering teams is the key, isn't it? And that's where you guys come in and
oh my goodness, surround yourself with people that are better than you at everything. You know, that's going to be the key to growth, isn't it? And helping them to step up. It's like, you know, when people come in and are taking on new things, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just about owning that.
True.
That's it. And I remember there was one day, and we spoke about this whenever Sarah was on the Tiki sessions, and we were up in Belfast and we were working with one of your clients, and we were doing a piece to camera. And this lady had to talk to the camera just about herself, and she couldn't do it. She was petrified, she couldn't do it. And by the end of the day, she was able to stand in front of the camera and talk for 2 minutes about herself. And at the end of it, she burst into tears. And Sarah and myself were like, "Are you okay?" Because we thought we'd upset her. And she was just, her exact words were, "I am just so proud of myself. I never thought I could do it." And I just thought that what's happened to that lady that day has changed her life, because she now knows that, do you know what? It is scary, but she is able to stand up and she is able to do it. And, you know, it was phenomenal to see that, you know. So what sort of clients do you work with then?
Oh my goodness. Ambitious businesses.
Yeah.
Businesses that want to grow, businesses that want to support their teams. I mean, you don't have a business nowadays that, we've only just had this conversation, where your team is absolutely everything. Where are you without your team? So businesses that want to invest in their teams, businesses that want their teams to feel confident to go out and take on those challenges. I mean, think of you now this summer stepping up and stepping into this role. Huge courage required. It's a huge change.
To be fair, it probably wouldn't have happened, and COVID has been terrible for so many reasons, but it definitely would. Like, I wouldn't be in this position if it had not been for the pandemic. And I suppose some people have said to me it's because of the resilience of being able to pivot and change and be able to adapt, and actually finally being forced in the position where it's either do or die, and you have to do it. And I think I've sort of relished under pressure in that respect, and I've really enjoyed that. But it's sort of taken that first step onto the entrepreneurial or sort of self-employment ladder, and it's difficult and it's scary.
I think, and I've always said, COVID has been devastating, but there has been some positives that have come out of it. Like you say, you wanted to own a bar all your life, and COVID gave you that opportunity to do it. We wanted to launch a clothing company. COVID gave us that time during the first lockdown to be able to actually get time to sit down, the three of us, and discuss and go, right, what are we going to do? We're now selling worldwide. Yourself and Sarah were very face-to-face mentoring and training. How did COVID affect your business then?
Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, it was the weekend of the 13th of March last year in 2020 when, like you say, our entire life we were out on stages, we were in boardrooms, we were in hotel rooms, hotel venues with our clients. We really were a live events business at that point. And suddenly, you know what? companies had a duty of care to their staff. There was no official lockdown announcement, but it was that, probably a lot of people remember that in-between time where,
totally.
you know, there was nothing official going on, but yet the fear was there and people weren't really sure what was happening. So naturally, a lot of our clients said, well, you know, it's just not worth it to us. We need to make sure that our staff are safe. So they cancelled everything. So we sat looking at our diaries going, okay, okay, how is this going to work? And at that stage, I mean, I think people felt like this was going to be a thing that would last a month. And then it became really apparent really quickly it was going to go on for ages. And you know what? Time rolled on and you sit there and you think, right, everything has changed. What are we going to do now? And truth be told, we didn't actually do anything. We sat back and said, right, the universe will provide, something will happen. And probably just at about the point where we thought we probably do need to step up and do something, our clients came back to us and said, this virtual presenting world, how on earth do you build rapport with people through a screen? How on earth do you present through, how does this even work? And suddenly we found ourselves with a whole new lease of life. And thank goodness, we're just so grateful to the client relationships, you know, that we've built up over years. People were really there for us, even in terms of building our, you know, our online presence. Oh my goodness, the support we received. Our very first client, and Stuart, you will remember this client because you were there for it, Learning Pool in Derry.
Yep.
A fabulous,
fantastic organisation,
worldwide e-learning platform. And you know, when we needed the help from them, we had no idea how to build e-learning environments. They came and they supported us through that. I mean, I actually could almost weep with gratitude, you know, the support that so many people gave us.
That's one of the things we talk about in nearly every Tiki session, and I don't know whether it's a Northern Irish thing, an Irish thing, or what, but businesses tend to really support each other on the North Coast in Northern Ireland. And it's great, you know, we had Claire Johnson on, who is a bar owner in Coleraine, 3 miles down the road. Ash is a bar owner here. Best of mates, would support each other. If Claire phoned you up and says, Ash, listen, it's a Thursday night, I need a barman, would you come in and help me? Ash would be there, likewise for Claire. And that support and that knowing that you have those relationships is very comforting, because whenever, and again, we're talking to Brian Murray because, you know, Brian Murray would host a load of events and stuff like that, and like you, his diary went from being full to being empty. Now, no matter how comfortable you are, that's still scary, and you're like, has everything that we've just worked towards gone? You know, so the knowledge that your clients are there to support you, and the fact that they then started coming back to you. Do you now have shares in Zoom? Or I think, again, saying that the pandemic had some positives, there's no business that had a better positive than Zoom off the pandemic. So did you have to learn all that technology? Were you already using it? You know, was there a learning curve there for you as well?
Well, it's quite interesting, you know, just prior to the pandemic, I'd say we probably had 3 or 4 meetings with clients who were asking us to work with teams worldwide. And they were talking about this Zoom platform. I used Skype morning, noon and night. I would have been a Skype girl. And I thought, well, Zoom, never heard of it. But I'm sure I can learn. But yeah, I'm sure Zoom would be fine. I'm not particularly familiar with it, but I'm sure it would be fine. And suddenly, within 2 months, you're just, oh goodness, practicing. I think at one point, maybe our first webinar was coming up. And, you know, you need to kind of know where the controls are. You need to know everything. I had phones, iPads. I was logged in from every room in the house, you know, trying to recreate the environment of people attending a webinar to see how it looked. And you know what? You can only get better from there. That's all I can say. You have to start somewhere, don't you?
I remember one of the first ones I did. It was probably one of the most prestigious ones I did. It was the Steinbeck Festival in Limavady, and they were streaming to Texas and Colorado and all around the world. And apparently the feedback was it was seamless and people really enjoyed it and stuff. But I'll never forget doing my bit and going behind the laptop and just grabbing a bottle of Prosecco that I'd opened for the thing and just necking it and going like this to myself. It's just embarrassing.
But you see, that's the thing. And again, because of the pandemic, and like Stephen Watson's still doing his bits for the BBC News from his house and stuff like that, it's made media more forgiving. Mobile phone footage is now an acceptable form of media on the news, and that I don't think will ever go away again. And people aren't, and again, this is what's probably great for you as well, people aren't so fussed on the frills and how professional it looks anymore. It's more the content. If the content's good and the personalities that are teaching us are good, and the customer service we're getting, the same as working behind the bar.
I think it's credibility for me,
you know,
authenticity.
That's it. If that's good, it doesn't matter if things are a wee bit rough around the edge or if there's a technical difficulty here or there, you know. So, you haven't always been in bespoke communications. You mentioned earlier that you met your husband in Tokyo, and you lived in London. So what took you to Tokyo to start with?
A moment of folly. I have no idea. I mean, I was such a home bird growing up. I barely had left the farm that I'd grown up on, and suddenly I'm graduating from university and I have this opportunity to jump on a plane and fly 5,000 miles.
Yeah.
Class.
I mean, I got on the plane in Dublin airport and I actually don't think I stopped crying until, do you remember when we went on long distance flights, there was a little flight map?
Yeah.
And the little airplane, you know, flies along and shows you where you are. And we were at least halfway across Siberia before I put the tissues away. It was just unbelievable. But you know what, you do these things when you're 22 and sure, why not?
Was it a work placement? Sorry, Camilla.
It was a job, it was a graduate job. And I left in October. And I didn't come home for 14 months.
Wow.
You know, for somebody who, honestly, I hadn't been anywhere.
I went to Scotland and I was home every other weekend, so I was like...
Well, I studied in Dublin, which was an hour down the road from where I grew up. I was home every weekend. I grew up with dogs, cats, cows, family, you know, everybody all around me, and suddenly I had nothing. And, you know, it teaches you a lot of resilience. I've made brilliant friends to this day. The friendships I made, as you can imagine, in a place like that, you know, we're still great friends. In fact, I'm away with a group of girls in 3 weeks' time, and their relationships for the last, you know, well, longer than I care to talk about, 20 odd years. Absolutely amazing. So I worked in Tokyo as, I started out life as a software developer.
Right, cool.
I worked in technology there, but I was in Japan at a time when the Japanese stock exchanges were, oh my goodness, they were leading the world. They were just streets ahead of anything that was going on anywhere else in Europe or even in the US or London. And I happened to be in Tokyo at a time when all that was going on, and I had a tech background.
Yeah.
So I ended up working in the markets then for a number of years. So I became a stockbroker, worked in the Tokyo market, and then an opportunity came up to move back to London. Truth be told, actually my father passed away, and you know, being all that distance away really started to feel really far. And well, I wasn't maybe quite ready to come home at that stage, and London was a whole lot closer. So my my now husband and I, we moved back to London, and I worked in London for a number of years.
And we all have experiences of the stock markets and stuff through movies. Is it as chaotic as it's portrayed?
It's a bunch of computers whirring away in a room. You don't see anything. And that's exactly what I got involved in. At the time, you know, you see the Wall Street movies and you have the jackets and the open outcry and people, you know, yelling orders down into the pit and all that. That was the world that all of my stuff completely replaced. So you literally enter, you know, nice quiet order on your computer screen and it gets sent automatically down to the exchange or sent around the world and executed and comes back. So you don't see any of that.
It's amazing because we were talking to Alan Simpson as well about whenever he lived in London, and it's amazing how people end up in certain places like you in Tokyo, Alan in London, at a key moment of time or a key moment in history, and that just changes their life forever, and the experiences that they have, that just by pure fate you end up there. So you must look back on those times with great fondness.
Oh, totally. I mean, sure, I wouldn't be here. That's where I met my husband, and that's my connection to the North Coast, because my husband doesn't come from here either.
Right, okay.
So he's English.
Okay.
So as you can imagine, we meet people and they're like, right, how does this work? But it was really a case of relationships from university for him. And when I met Jerry, I inherited a friendship group from the North Coast. And really, it's a case of if you can't beat them, join them.
So what's your first memory of the North Coast then?
I will never forget it. My husband Jerry has a great friend called Davy Crawford. And Davy threw myself and Jerry and our two children into the back of his car, or threw us into the car and took us for a drive between Portrush and Ballycastle. Now, you being natives know this drive like the back of your hand. I now know it really well, but it was a really sunny day. The sky was blue, the sea was amazing, and we drove past Dunluce Castle, drove along out to that beautiful coast road. White Park Bay stretched down in front of us. I will never forget that. I will never forget it. It's indelibly printed on my eyeballs, you know.
I think on a good day, I've said this a couple of times, and Aussie mates and family and stuff don't like it, but I think on a really nice day, the coastal route can rival Great Ocean Road, can rival like any of the, like, I've never been to like West Coast of America, but it's just incredible.
Oh,
Like,
it's incredible. It's beyond parallel. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
I had the opportunity 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, to go to Brazil when I was in Rio, and I was on the Copacabana beach, the most famous beach in the world. And hand on my heart, I was stood on that beach going, Strand's better. Seriously, I literally was. I was stood there, and I know
You're a Port Stewart boy.
I
so
know
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a Port Stewart boy, but I was stood on that beach. You know, the White Rocks is a nicer beach, and and people may go, "You're crazy," but I was stood there and went, "It's nowhere near as nice as the White Rocks. It's a flat beach with a road that runs up the back of it, you know, and it's just." I've said it before many times that if we had 30 degrees weather for 3 months of the year, this would be, we would hate living here because it would just become so overwhelmed with tourists, you know. And this summer, you know, it's been so busy, and you know, Barry's has just announced that it's been sold, and there's so many people online that are like, oh, that's Portrush dead, and that really does my nothing, because it's not Portrush dead, because Portrush...
We have the Tiki Bar now.
We have the Tiki Bar.
We have Kelly's Complex. We
Exactly.
have so much going
There's
on.
so much going on. We have 5 amazing beaches within a 10-minute drive. We have some of the best eateries in the country, with best bars in the country, the nicest people about.
Amazing water sports.
Yeah.
So much to
Absolutely
do in
amazing.
Portrush,
you know, and people
Port
that say
Stewart.
Portrush is dead, I'm like, it's really not. You're just, you know.
I think the staycation has sort of given people a chance to rediscover. And we went camping a couple of weeks ago, and we went all the way to Carramina, 15 miles away.
Yeah.
And it was incredible.
Yeah,
And the
it's
kids
true.
had such a great time, and it was just beautiful, beautiful scenery, and just, it was class. And like, in normal circumstances, we would never have gone to Carramina camping.
Carramina is great.
It was brilliant. Really,
great,
really
so-
beautiful.
Well, I've just been in Ballycastle on my holidays for the whole weekend.
Nice.
My family laughed as they waved goodbye to me on Friday and said,
10-minute
"See you
drive away.
And I bet you had a great time.
Well, I didn't have to get in the car and drive for hours. Didn't have to get on a flight. It was absolutely
And
beautiful.
you've beaches, you've bars, you've restaurants and everything.
Yeah.
So let's talk about water sports and activities on the North Coast then.
Oh my goodness.
Because I previously have attempted on many occasions the park run, which is a fantastic free 5K every Saturday morning. And usually whenever I'm halfway down the beach, gasping for air, you pristinely come jogging past me, "Hi Stuart," and then you meet me on the way back again, and I'm red-faced and huffing and puffing. Tell us about all these things that you do on the North Coast.
Well, park run's back,
Yep.
which is great. Fantastic to see it post-pandemic. I can assure you my 5K PB days are, well, I'll not say they're behind me, but I would need to invest a little bit to get back there again. I went out for a run this evening, and my friend said, right, we've got to be back for 10 to 6. She had to pick up her son. I said, you better sprint on, because I am going to hold you back. I definitely need to step up a bit. But you're right, when I moved to the North Coast, I think there's something when you live here, your blood thickens, it definitely does, because I saw everybody around me jumping into the sea, you know, in December, and going out running with the hailstones in their face, and I said, that will never be me. And I think there is something that rubs off on you, because you can't live here and not make the most of what's going on around
It's
you.
really good for your health as well, both mental and physical as well. So Camilla, I have 3 more questions to ask you. I don't know if Ash wants to know anything. The first question I'd like to ask you, and this is from a business point of view, is for any up-and-coming teenagers that you maybe get the chance to talk to, what one piece of advice would you give them about confidence or about business, or if they had an idea to be self-employed? What's that one piece of advice by somebody that's had a fantastic career in many different fields? What advice would you give them?
It's a really difficult question, because there are so many things you could say, but I do think a key skill is listening. You know, when it comes to communication, we all get stressed out about what it is that we want to say, and we all think about how do we come across, and you know, what are people thinking when you open your mouth. Actually, if you tune in and listen to the folks around you, what you say will have more resonance, because you will be speaking to the needs of those around you. Also, especially when you're starting out, there are people who have been there before, have done it ahead of you. You will absolutely have better ideas than them. You will, because you will bring a fresh perspective. That being said, I think it's really important to listen to what's going on around you and find ways to make those new ideas acceptable to somebody else, because sometimes it can be hard to go in and disturb people who've had a certain way of thinking for a long, long time. But believe in yourself too. I mean, that's the thing. Your idea will be absolutely relevant and will resonate. But find a way to tune into where your audience is at and present that idea to them.
That's a fantastic piece of advice.
Too right. And that sort of leading into that, or coming off that, is like for the youngsters, don't be scared to ask for advice off those older people who've been there and done it, because more often than not, it's like I've had a few people who have, like, this wouldn't have happened had I not been able to ask people who've been there and done that, and being able to listen to what they're actually saying, because they're giving gold advice to you. And there's a lot of people who go out there and not arrogance, because you can put up that sort of self bravado because you feel you have to try and make it in your way. But if you sort of take a back step and listen to people, and it's having that sort of self-awareness to ask and take on advice and listen to it.
You're absolutely right. Having the courage to ask, actually, rather than tell, sometimes is the thing, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely.
The second question then is, we're not presenters and we're interviewing somebody that is an award-winning presenter. And congratulations on your award. First of all, what was the award that you won?
Most recently, well, the Professional Speaking Association of Ireland have an annual competition to find emerging public speakers, and this year that was me.
Wow, congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
That's a huge accolade. So, coming off the back of that, how do you think we do? Because, like I say, we are not presenters, constructive criticism. I mean, if you tell us we're crap, we're going to cry. But how do you think we do?
Well, I always say that, you know what, I'll take the feedback. I promise I won't cry in front of you, but I might go away and have a little weep. I think it's so important to be authentic. It really is. It's so important to be yourself. I think you need to be a shinier version of yourself when the camera's on, because the camera does mute you a little bit. It's important to have that energy, and I think you two have done a fab job of that.
Thank you very much. It's good.
Make another Cosmo now.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
10 more, please.
10 more. We've had some nights like that in here, so we have. And then, just to finish up, what are your hopes and plans and aspirations for the future, both for yourself and for Bespoke Communications?
Well, actually, probably all my life it's centered around the family and where the family are at. And goodness me, actually, you might make me weep, but my oldest is away to university very shortly, yes, and that will bring big changes. I think it will change the dynamic at home completely. But as the children get older and start to leave home, it does create a space for other business ideas to come forth. So, you know what, developing Bespoke and I think reaching more people with what it is that we do would be a big aspiration. I always enjoy the work that we do with young people. So, you know what, watch this space. There's a few little ideas on the pot at the moment.
Brilliant. Well, listen, from somebody that has worked with you in the past and known you for years, I wish both yourself and Sarah all the best in the future. And we've wanted to have you on from day dot. I think the last time you were in Italy, was it? Or you're away somewhere, and we weren't able to get you on. So listen, thank you so much for giving up the time tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on, and Ash, thank you so much for opening the North Coast premier cocktail venue at
Thanks for coming in. Like, you've been in a couple of times, it's been great. And thanks for coming along tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been fab. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.